My name is Gene Xu. I'm an ABC. That's American-born Chinese.
I am an ABC, an American-born Chinese, and you will also be an ABC. So what does it mean to be an ABC, and what does it mean to be American?
At the intersection between America and China, I'm concerned about the lack of cultural awareness on both sides.
The biggest thing going on today is the trade war between the United States and China. And the trade war has a lot of collateral damage.
But I'm still optimistic about the future for my unborn son. Generational ABC podcasts are my conversations with my unborn son, one ABC to another, in my attempt to explain our world in context in order for him to make better sense of his world, which will be nothing like the world we live in today.
Right now, there's this trend towards a bifurcation of the internet. Hey, little buddy, this is your dad speaking to you again, before you were born, of course. I just want to try to make it a regular thing where I say something to you every single day and try to relate it to what's going on in the world, but especially what's going on between America and China, because I am an ABC, an American-born Chinese, and you will also be an ABC. So what does it mean to be an ABC, and what does it mean to be American? Well, what does it mean in 2019? What did it mean when I was growing up in the 70s and 80s? And what will it mean when you are in your 20s and about to enter the world as a professional, starting your career, whatever you're going to be doing? So it's just interesting that all I have to do is just pull out this mobile phone, and it's a smartphone, and it's an iPhone. So just for reference, we're currently on iPhone 8. So it'll be interesting what happens in 20 years. iPhone 8 will be a relic because there will have been many generations of upgrades to how we communicate. The mobile phone may not even be the primary way we communicate when you are in your 20s. So that's very interesting. But what's going on in the world today is that for the past, I don't know, so America has basically dominated technology for the last 20 years. America invented wireless communications. Americans invented, well, not Americans, some US company, and invented cellular technology, satellite technology. So Motorola basically invented the world's first cell phone or mobile device, but Motorola was later displaced by Apple, which added all kinds of communication features to the phone. It used to be you could only talk on the phone. Now you can record videos, watch email, watch TV, check your email, do instant messaging, do your social media. Social media wasn't available. I think 10 years ago it wasn't available yet, or maybe at least 15 years ago it wasn't available yet. Anyway, the biggest thing going on today is the trade war between the United States and China. And the trade war has a lot of collateral damage. So a lot of workers are affected, a lot of companies are affected, but one of the companies that has been primarily targeted by the US government is a Chinese company called Huawei. And they are currently the leader in a lot of telecommunications technology. So we're really not going to get into the debate about how they actually came to a position of leadership. There's a lot of things going on in the news, how they stole a lot of the technology that is enabling them to take the leadership. There's been a lot of unfair trade practices for doing business in China, where foreign companies have to partner in joint ventures with local companies, or they have to share their technology, or whatever's going on. It'll just be interesting when you look back in this point of history, in which there's a kind of like a upward trend of Chinese technology companies, and maybe a sideways trend, or even a slightly downward trend of American tech. So we'll see what happens. Right now, obviously, Apple is still the leader in many areas. They don't sell the most phones or the most devices, but I think they still earn the majority of the profits. And I can remember 3, 4, 5 years ago, Apple had over 100% of the profits in the mobile device industry, and that's because the aggregate of all the other companies who were trying to catch up with Apple actually lost money. So in terms of profit share, they had over 100%, which is quite amazing. But in 20 years, where will Apple be? That's a very interesting question. And what's even more interesting is, where will Huawei be? Where will the Chinese system of telecommunications be? Right now, there's this trend towards a bifurcation of the internet. It used to be a platform to connect everybody around the world, but because there's so much bad stuff being spread through social media, so much fake news, it allows bad organizations and people to organize. It empowers good people, but it also empowers bad people, that different governments have different types of restrictions on the internet. And China, which has the most online users, has what's called today the Great Firewall of China, which restricts a lot of U.S. companies, for example, for Facebook, Google, YouTube, and stuff like that. But it also restricts online discussions with certain keywords. So it's not a free internet as we would call it here in the West, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. And as this kind of internet bifurcates on kind of heavily censored, heavily regulated, and trying to maintain its freedom, but also trying to prevent the spread of fake news and terrorist events and stuff like that, it will be interesting what the internet looks like in 5 years, 10 years, especially 20 years, when you're really kind of old enough to put into context what's going on. I mean, I'm just thinking that, in some time in the future, you're probably going to be writing some kind of report, doing some type of analysis, and you can actually hear your father's voice talk about historical things. And that'll just be really interesting, because we can only read history. And when we read history about what happened 20 years ago, or 40 years ago, or 50 years ago, it lacks context, because history is written by somebody with the mindset that they have at that time, with their ideology and values that they have at that time. And it's really hard to pick up the nuances of what's really going on and what people actually think. So I think that's just incredibly interesting. Again, I don't want to make these daily father and son vlogs or podcasts too long. So I'm going to end it here, and I look forward to speaking to you tomorrow, and I look forward to seeing you in about 5 to 6 months. All right. Love you, buddy.
Listen and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, or YouTube.